Hello, it is Foundation Friday the 13th of March 2020. Steve Sipress here, and I'm going to share today another part in our multi-part series on the great book How to Be Rich, written by J. Paul Getty in a series of articles actually in Playboy magazine in the early 60s when he was the richest man on earth. And that over 50 years ago, those writings are appropriate, extremely and perfectly appropriate today, in the midst of the panicdemic that is going on with this coronavirus nonsense, and people are living in all kinds of fear and uncertainty and making all kinds of bonehead moves. And I'm not talking about the general public, because 90% of people, at least here in America, do not own a business, and that's already a bonehead move, so that's the end of that. But business owners make bonehead moves also. In fact, this chapter is titled Business Blunders and Booby Traps. And J. Paul Getty gives examples from his days starting out as a wildcatter, drilling for oil, and being a jack of all trades and having to pretty much live in his car and be on a shoestring budget and do everything almost himself with a little bit of help until he finally struck it rich. And even then, made a whole load of bonehead mistakes that he shares as examples, and he gives several categories of mistakes. We're going to cover 3 of them today, and I'm going to relate them exactly to what is going on currently with this coronavirus panicdemic. Yes, it's an epidemic of living in fear and panic instead of having a good head on your shoulders. So let's get right to it. First category of mistakes: business blunders and booby traps, bonehead moves, whatever you want to call it, is the failure or the inability to distinguish between what is fact and what is opinion. So Getty writes that even though it can be carefully considered and based on fact, opinion nonetheless remains opinion and is very seldom infallible. Opinion is never better than the information on which it is based, the qualifications of the person voicing it, and his ability to correctly interpret the information at his disposal. I'm going to add also his agenda, because nowadays just about everyone you see on TV, news, or anywhere on the internet, social media especially, often has an agenda when he or she is reporting the, quote, facts. They're reporting them in a biased way. Almost everybody does. So you need to get good at distinguishing between what is fact, what is opinion, and what is biased fact, which is basically opinion also. So the predilection for accepting opinion or even rumor as fact is a fairly familiar and widespread human failing. So what has this got to do with the coronavirus panicdemic? Well, it has everything, because look at the stock market, for instance. That's people investing in big companies. Now, I personally have none of our money invested in big companies. I invest all my money in small businesses, and I own all or part of over a dozen of them, and that's where I invest, in businesses where I have the control, not in the wild slings and arrows and roller coaster ups and downs and susceptibility and talk about agenda of big companies in the stock market. We have no idea what's going on in big companies. What's their agenda? What's their next move going to be? What mistakes have they made that they've been hiding, and what's really going on? Or what outside factors, like all this panic and Trump says wrong or says right, or what he does, or what the market goes up or down. I got none of that. I got my money, my time, and my effort invested in my own businesses that I can control. So I need to distinguish between fact and fiction, and we all do before you start making decisions. So many business owners are making a huge mistake nowadays. I saw the same thing when I worked as a Yellow Page publisher in 2008, when the George Bush debacle hit, leading to the Great Recession. And suddenly all the not all, but most of the advertisers are making the stupid bonehead blunder of cutting their advertising. It's going into recession, we're cutting the advertising. Like, it's the exact opposite. What a bonehead rookie mistake. And yet I see that happening now again, now that the economy has turned down and, airlines are cutting flights and airports are empty and arenas are empty. And I mean, even mega churches are cutting out their services. They're empty because states and cities and governments are all mandating or strongly suggesting that any gathering of over 500 or over 1,000 people shouldn't happen, whatever. So, people where it makes no sense to close their doors are closing their doors. So naturally, the overall economy is affected. This is a huge opportunity, of course, for the smart, nimble, and aggressive small business owner to take all kinds of market share from the businesses that are going to be stupid and cut their advertising and marketing. In other words, cut off all chance of not all chance, but most chance of getting new business coming in, and even lose a lot of their current customers who will go, hey, where'd they go? Or what's going on? Or maybe they're going out of business, haven't seen ads for them. And what would you do that to yourself? Well, I know what you would do, because you're making this first mistake. You're probably looking too much at bias or opinions or someone's thinking what might happen or going. I can tell you what's going to happen, that every time the economy turns down, smart business owners make an absolute killing. And Goethe tells that exact story about making a killing in the right after the Depression started in Black Friday in 1929. That in 1931 he was able to buy shares of a company for pennies on the dollar that ended up being worth millions and millions. Of course, then he made the mistake, and somebody told him, oh, there's no oil on this land. And he had a geologist come by, so he sold that lease that he had bought for pennies on the dollar. And of course, later on, found out the person he sold it to made millions because there was plenty of oil there. Then he told another mistake of buying stock in another petroleum company for pennies on the dollar, and then being convinced by his board to sell it and cut their losses in the panic after the crash of 29 during the Depression. And of course, as he says, if he would have held on to that, it'd be worth like hundreds and hundreds of times the money as it was. But they were too fearful and listened to the wrong advice and made mistakes. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is kind of what I just talked about, but I'll finish it off where he says here that there may be some substitute for hard facts and factual information, but if there is, I have no idea what it can be. It certainly isn't rumor or opinion that has been camouflaged as fact. In order to succeed at any deal, project, or endeavor, the businessman or woman must assemble all the available pertinent hard facts and study and analyze them him or herself. So you can't just follow the websites you like. You can't just watch the cable news channels that you agree with their point of view. You gotta watch the left-leaning, the right-wing nutcases, the left-wing nut jobs. You gotta watch both to see what's going on. You gotta follow people on Twitter and Facebook and all over social media that are left-wing bat crazy and right-wing crazy, and you gotta follow everybody so you can form your own opinion and attempt to figure out what the facts are and not get caught up in somebody else's idea of it. Okay, second big error. Where are we? I think we'll move on to another page. A little difficult to turn the pages with one hand, so I apologize. Bear with me. By the way, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, post them below wherever you're watching this, reading it, or listening to it. Again, I don't know what goes on with Facebook, where I record this live video every day on facebook.com/smallbizhelp, B-I-Z, but it doesn't show me who's here or any questions or comments, unfortunately, during the live video most of the time. All right. No, I went too far ahead. I should have written. I've got all kinds of asterisks and underlines here, and as I was going through this, preparing for this video, I should have taken out another pen and written a big 1, 2, and 3. And now I dropped the book entirely. Excuse me. Where the 3 lessons are. So let's see if I can get to number 2. Number 2. Apologize. Beauty of live video, huh? Let's see, number 2. Okay, here it is. Number 2, right, of course. Once you make the sound decision based on the facts, the second big business blunder and mistake is not sticking to your guns. So not sticking to that course and following it through. The failure to do this is another of the blunders often made by business owners, young and some who are not so young. And so that's when he talked about the stock where he figured it all out and studied it all and came up with the facts and paid pennies on the dollar for that gas and oil company stock. And then he was convinced by his board members, who clearly hadn't done all that research and clearly were listening to the rumors and the panic and the fear and the nonsense, and told him, oh, well, you got to sell that thing, and big mistake. So once you make your decision based on the facts, stick with it. Changing course when you had already figured out that was a winning course based on someone else's opinion, it's another big category of mistake. And the third one here is the businessman who is able to calculate his risk and then is willing to take them has his battle for success 9/10 won. That bears repeating. You are 90% of the way towards success when you calculate the risks and then you take the risk. The remaining 1/10 is the unknown variable, the unpredictable factor that puts the zest and excitement into the game. Without that X factor, business would be hopelessly dull, routine, and uninteresting. However, business owners often make the mistake of not taking a calculated risk. And that is what I talked about right now. Continuing, in fact, ramping up your advertising and marketing and sales efforts in the down economy. This is when the money is made. This is when you put the pedal to the metal. When the economy is booming, which it was for the past 3 years, as I told you over and over, if you didn't take advantage of that and you just got your share of the pie like everybody else and the money is flowing, and so, hey, we don't have to really do anything, money is flowing, and you didn't push full steam ahead, well, you missed it, although it'll come back again, of course, always does. But right now it's a down economy. And right now, most business owners, in my experience of decades of working with thousands of business owners and personally working with a couple of thousand as a consultant with the Yellow Page company for 3.5 years, I personally watched business owners over and over make the dumb move of, in the down economy, cutting their advertising and marketing. You'll see it all over the place. You'll see less ads, less marketing going on within your community, your industry. If it's worldwide, it's in whatever niche you're selling in. If it's in your local area, then you have a geographic niche, little area where you do business, and you'll see others ramp down their advertising, and it's a big mistake to say, oh, well, gee, if they're doing it, then I'll do it. No, what you should say is like, wow, what fools. Now I'm going to ramp up my advertising and marketing, and I'm going to steal all kinds of their business, because make no mistake, people are still spending tons of money. If they're not flying on planes or spending money on other things, and I don't just mean panicking and buying out all the toilet paper in the store or all the sanitary wipes or the Purell. I mean, I can't stand any of that stuff. Those wipes, those Purell, that whatever. Like, I wash my hands, obviously, but I can't stand any of those chemical things or whatever's in them. I've never had a flu shot. I'm sure I've gotten the flu or whatever, but I get a little runny nose or I'm a little tired for a day or two, and that's it. I mean, as almost all business owners, we have a deathbed mentality. You want me to stop working? Even if I was I'd have to be on my deathbed. I'd still be working. You'd have to physically stop me from working. So that's small business owners. I'm not sure, but I'm gathering you're likely, just like me, there's pretty much no chance of you catching any kind of virus, whether it comes from China or from Nebraska, okay? And even if you did, wouldn't stop you. Wouldn't stop NBA players, NHL players, Major League Baseball players, Broadway actors. Wouldn't stop any of these people either. They're just going along with the panic and being overly cautious and all that nonsense and cutting out all their stuff. But that doesn't mean that you should make the same stupid mistake, or some of them have an agenda with what they're doing. But your agenda as a small business owner ought to be to grow your business, to bring in more revenue, to serve more customers, clients, and patients better and make more profit Reinvest it any way you want in your business, in your personal life. Give to charities you like. Leave it for your descendants to use, whatever it is. But your job, your number one job as a business owner, take it for granted that you provide an excellent product, obviously, or you shouldn't be watching my videos. Please don't. Your number one job is to produce profit for the business. And to do that, right now, it's easier than it was during the boom time. In the boom time, you could have ramped up your advertising and marketing, had been a little better off than your competitors. Money was flowing to everybody no matter what. Now, money is going to stop flowing to the companies that ramp down their advertising and marketing. It's almost going to stop completely. And now, even a little bit of smart advertising and marketing, you can make a ton of money. Now, if you want to know the specific tactics to use, because you can do it right and you can do it wrong during a down economy, there's a right way to do it. Go to helpfromsteve.com and I'll help you out, or you can find somebody else who knows what they're doing and hopefully they will help you out. Or you can find nobody to help you and do it on your own. But anyway, please do it. Please take advantage of the down economy. Do not make those 3 mistakes that J. Paul Getty talked about 50 years ago and are extremely appropriate today. Don't fail to distinguish fact from fiction. Don't not stick to your guns once you know you've made a winning move. And don't fail to take calculated risks when you've calculated, and that's a risk worth taking. Don't make those mistakes. And that'll do it for Foundation Friday. Getty goes over a few more categories, major categories of mistakes in that chapter, and I'll share those with you next Foundation Friday. Join me then, and join me tomorrow on, I was going to say Success Story Saturday, which it used to be for a little over a year, but now I do Social Media Saturday. I have a tip for you how to make money specifically on social media tomorrow. Catch you then. Over and out. Bye-bye.